Hi, this is David again, walking in front of my camera. Anyway, this video I want to do on one of the silliest things that's happened to me personally in the Mormon Church. And this is a little bit of a hard video for me to do because there's some feelings and some triggers and some emotions that a little bit hard for me to get through, but I'm going to do it anyway because it's therapy. If it was easy, it wouldn't be therapy. Okay, here goes. In between a divorce, I decided to find somebody else to marry, and they weren't lined up at my door. When you tell a girl that you're basically disabled with bipolar, and that you're unemployed, that don't make you a hot catch. But anyway, she wasn't either. Let me tell you, this is my wife, former wife, Carolyn. Oh, wait a minute, see, I've got so... shit, I got the name wrong. I am so emotionally triggered here. Sandra. Carolyn was another one. And they're both mental patients, so maybe that's how we all got together at the institution. But anyway, Sandra. I talked with Sandra, I guess, on the LDS singles. Trying to find somebody that would accept me. And we talked, and she lived in Denver, Colorado, out in Littleton. And so anyway, I went from California to Denver, and we met, and one of the main things that drew us together is we were both so damn desperate to get married. If somebody said yes, we didn't care if they had legs, arms, a head. They were a stump, retarded. They were mute, blind, deaf. Those were all qualifications in those days. And Sandra met a lot of those. Maybe I did too, I don't know. Anyway, I stayed with her for, oh gosh, I forget, a week maybe. And we got to go some places and do some things and try to get to know each other a little bit. Now, you're not going to believe this, because when I try to say this on the tape, I don't believe it either. Sandra was a master's level registered counselor. She had a license to counsel in the state of Colorado, and she had her own little office and her own little business, and her condo, and an older car. But anyway, she had a license. She had been past the exam bars and everything, and so she was counseling people. Well, and here's where I get some of my cult background. Sandra's specialty was satanic ritual cults, deprogramming people from satanic ritual cults. And Sandra presented herself to me and to the world that she had been in a satanic ritual cult as a child. And I never knew anything about cults, basically, until I met Sandra. Then I learned a lot about cults. So she had her little business, and there were people that would come and counsel, and she did some group work. I went to one of her group sessions, and there were people that, I don't know, paid $10 or $25 or something to hear her talk. And Sandra was a graduate. Her undergraduate degree was in theater. Now, in those days, I was more stupid than I am now. Now, I'm still pretty stupid because I believe people. I'm just easily influenced, and I believe people. I don't want to think poorly of people. So I didn't think anything of her being a graduate in theater, and she showed me some books that she had, some pictures and some newspaper clippings and plays and stage things that she did. So then she got her master's degree in psychology or counseling. And so her life began to kind of unravel in front of me. And because of my counseling background and probably my personality, I just am not a mean, ugly, well, I am ugly, but I'm not mean, ugly. I don't try to make people feel poorly about themselves or anybody else. And so Sandra told me that she had a little problem. And I, of course, said, well, what is your problem? And she said, well, she says, I'm being sued. Well, I have a little bit of a law background, and that doesn't always scare me. So I was curious, and I said, well, what is it that you're being sued for? And she said, well, I'm being sued for having one of my clients over at my house, female client, and letting her, inviting her and sleeping with her and licking her vagina. Now, the word lesbian didn't even come into my head. I was still a Mormon in those days, and I go, oh, okay. So you just licked your vagina? Well, a couple of times, a couple of nights. I go, okay. So I'm just a very accepting guy. I go, you know, that doesn't disqualify me from marrying that girl. And so, shit. She was being sued for $1 million. And there was a civil suit that I had to go to. I didn't have to, but it's me. I went to her attorney's office down in downtown Denver, and I went up and sat down with him, and I said, this looks pretty bad. And he goes, it is, David. He said, it is really bad. He says there's a civil suit against her for $1 million, and her insurance is probably going to have to pay for that. And there's also another little problem. And I said, well, I didn't think this could get worse. And he said, listen. I said, okay. The Attorney General of the state of Colorado is probably going to criminally prosecute her, and the state of Colorado is also removing her therapist license. And I said, okay. What's the bad news? Shit. I don't know how I get into this stuff. I don't know how I get into this stuff, but I did. So I went to bat for her, and I went back to the condo association where she lived, and she was being sued by her condo. I mean, this girl should have had a bumper sticker on her forehead that, you know, I create lawsuits. I will destroy your life. There should have been a disclaimer on this girl. But anyway, rather than letting the condo foreclose on her property, and you know, I have a law background, a little bit of a law background, I transferred her property with a quitclaim deed into my name. So now they had to find me and serve me because I was the real owner of the property, and of course they didn't know who I was or where my address was or anything else. So I tried to save her condo for her. And my FICO score still shows a foreclosure for that sweet little girl, Sandra, that I tried to help. Well, when I started to quiz her and question her on some of these behaviors, and found out that she was showering with the girl, and I guess I'm not an expert in lesbianism. I like the same porno that lesbians like, but I'm not an expert in lesbianism. So anyway, when I found out she was showering with her and sleeping with her and having lesbian relations, which, what does that mean? Licking on each other's vagina, dildos, I don't know. And at this point in my video, I don't want to know, and I don't think you want to know either. So I'm now trying to muster a defense for her. Bipolar people are extremely creative. Every attorney in the world looked at her case and said, you got to be kidding, I'm not taking this case. But David took it. David took it, and now I know why other attorneys didn't take this case. Well, they were trying to serve her on the, they gave her notice of the civil lawsuit, but were trying to serve her. Well, I was hiding her in the community, so they couldn't get the papers in her hand. And of course, we wouldn't open the doors and accept the papers, so the lawsuit can't stop without service or start. Well, then I went down to the attorney's office, and when I had to negotiate with him, with the Colorado licensing board, and there was no way. They said, if you think we're not going to revoke her license, you're crazy. And I was. They revoked it. And looking back on it, being a social worker myself, that was more than inappropriate behavior. She was taking money from this woman, young girl's Social Security or something disability account, and saying that the counseling was in bed. I guess she was talking to the girl's vagina. I don't know. But anyway, how do I get into it? See, this is a hard video for me. It's hard because I feel so stupid. I feel so stupid that I got into this stuff. Well, anyway, Sandra was a Mormon, and her bishop felt that because she had been a sexually abused satanic child, that licking another girl's vagina on a regular basis, over a period of months, I guess, wasn't cause for excommunication. Now, the Mormon Church, you are subjected to their rules and regulations as interpreted by the local officials. And no one can excommunicate you from the Mormon Church except that bishop and that stake president in that state. Well, if they're your brothers or your father and they decide not to prosecute you, that's the end of the case right there. That's the end of it. So anyway, we got thinking that maybe, you know, we should get married and go to California, where I was living at that particular time. Well, we decided, now she had a temple recommend. I don't know if in the bishop's interview they'll ask the girls, when they say, do you masturbate? And the girls say no. Maybe the bishop is supposed to say, well, do you lick other girls' vaginas? I don't know. I don't know. But she had a temple recommend. And I did too, you know. And I wasn't perfect, but I wasn't engaging in licking girls' vaginas. I had a legitimate temple recommend because I was a temple worker in Los Angeles, at the Los Angeles Temple. So we decided to get married. So we went to the church, and there in her stake, and asked if we could be married in the temple in, I don't know what the temple is in Denver. And the church said, no, you two can't get married in the temple. You're going to have to wait a year. And we said, well, you know, if we marry, why, we both have temple recommends, why can't we go to the temple and get married? I said, well, we don't know. It's the Lord's way. The keys to the kingdom are not yours yet. So a long story short, we were traveling back to California, and we tried to get married in the Las Vegas temple. It's one of the most beautiful temples I've ever been in, Las Vegas. I love mirrors and chandeliers, and oh my gosh. So they saw our temple recommends, and then we asked for slips to be married, and they said no. And you know, again, this is a hard video for me. I'm trying to go back on what the actual reason was. It may have been that she was in a lawsuit, and the kind of lawsuit she was in. She lost her license in Colorado. She couldn't work anymore. But a long story short, we couldn't get married in the Las Vegas temple, so we were both a little bit rebellious kind of people. And so we went to the Las Vegas drive-up window, and there was a woman there that married us. And we looked out over the hood of the car, and we could see the Las Vegas temple, and we were just kind of having an attitude, you people, screw you. And so we got married there in Las Vegas, and drove on into California. And so in those days, again, I was still a Mormon, and so was she. And she said, well, I'd really like to go to the temple with you. And I said, well, we both have temple recommends. We can walk into the temple together and go through the same session. And then, of course, being bipolar, the left side of my brain clicks on. So I'll tell you what, how'd you like me to take you through the veil? She goes, oh, you can't do that. She says, you know, we're not married. I says, watch this. Now, as soon as the church sees this video, there'll be a new policy and a new procedure. Said, that old bastard, he tricked us. So I took her on the day that it was my day to work the veil in Los Angeles. And so we went through the ceremony and pale-aled and cut our throats. This was before 1990 and all the things that promised to give everything we had to the church, and etc. And she did take a commitment there that she would have no sexual relations with anybody else except her lawfully wedded husband. So I thought that was going to hold. I thought the vagina licking was done. Silly me! Silly me! But anyway, I'll get to that. So we go to the temple together, Los Angeles, and it's my day to work the veil. And I go to my veil supervisor and I said, you know, my wife is here today and she's in that session. Do you think it would be okay if we lined her up at my post on the veil? And he said, sure, we can do that. And so, sure enough, the veil worker knocks on the thing 3 times, and I say, what is wanted? And Sandra goes, I go, Jesus and Sandra are both waving at each other. And so I brought her through the veil. And she and I just laughed our ass off. Several hours ago, the Mormons wouldn't accept us getting married. But here we are in the LDS temple in Los Angeles, and I'm bringing her through the veil. So we laughed our ass off about that over and over again, that we tricked them. Well, the Mormon Church has a rule. If you trick them or you don't do what they ask you to do, they make you wait a year. Like when you get baptized, you're not allowed to go to the temple for a year. You have to be brainwashed enough that when you do the pale and you know, the secret signs and symbols and all of the penalties, that you're going to accept it. So they give you temple classes and they mentally start to prepare you of what a wonderful, outstanding cult experience this is going to be. So there's a year's wait there. Now, if you have been excommunicated or you've been disciplined by a council, usually there's a year wait there. Now, sometimes it's only probation. If you just masturbated, you might be on just probation. And if you promise, and they check you, you know, I don't know if they take pictures of your penis or your, I don't know how they do these things. I was just a member. I wasn't the leader of the Mormon Church. But sometimes you only got probation, and when they passed the sacrament around, you couldn't take it, and all the members would look at you and go, we know he was masturbating. He's not taking the... So it wasn't really a confidential confession. Well, if it's a big confession, like licking the vagina, I guess, or or having intercourse, then you're out for a year. And you can't go to the temple for a year. So there's always these punishments. Well, if you marry civilly, now see, that's what we did. We married civilly. Now we're on punishment. We cannot get married in the temple for a year. That is not going to happen. So the Mormon Church is very good at punitive kinds of things. They'll say, you didn't do it right the first time. This is a lesson to you. Do it right the first time. That's a philosophy. That's a doctrine in the Mormon Church. If you marry civilly, then you're banned from a temple wedding for a year. So anyway, we were married, and we had a little baby. And her name is Genevieve Marie. And very petite, beautiful little child. And living with a satanic ritual abuse person is quite an experience. Let me give you one experience, okay? One is that when the baby was about 1, we had this nice house and a big bathroom, and I could look across the master bedroom, and the bathroom door was shut, which she usually doesn't do. And I just was curious and knocked on the door, and she's come in, and when I saw her standing in the shower, there was blood everywhere. Like, it looked like the Alfred Hitchcock movie, you know, The Birds, which you're all too old to even remember, or too young to remember. And I looked and I said, what the hell happened here? She said, oh, I started cutting again. Now, I'm a social worker and I'm familiar with cutting. And it is a not a philosophy, it's a behavior that people who are in deep, deep psychological pain will take knives and start cutting on their legs and on their arms and everywhere, and bring the pain out of their head onto the cut. It works for cutters. And many of them have scars, and many of them you can see a cutter a mile away if you're a social worker. Well, I knew that she had cut before I married her, but I thought that the Mormon church would make her happy and stop the cutting. Well, a long story short, it didn't. And the baby was in the house, and I shut the door, and I told Sandra, I said, if you ever cut again around this baby or in front of her or whatever, I will call social services myself. Well, that didn't stop her cutting, and we started a residential facility for emotionally disturbed children there in Paso Robles, California. And it took us a couple of years. We bought raw land and built on it and got city grants and started to bring kids into our facility. Well, I was the director because I had the experience of 5013C and writing articles of incorporation and you know, all the legal stuff, and programming and scheduling and whatever. And so she was the director of the facility. Well, that didn't go over with the state of California. They tracked her down and found out that she had her license revoked in Colorado and fired her ass at our ranch. They said she could be there, but there couldn't be any clients there. Or I could have clients there, but she had to be off grounds. So what are we supposed to do with the baby? So how do I get into this? How do I get into these stupid ass things? Well, I began to read. Sandra always said that she had, it's called MPD, multiple personality disorders. The new DSM-4 revised calls it dissociative behavior. Those of you that aren't into all this, you know, educational stuff, it's people with multiple personalities. They're one person, then they're another person, whatever. Most of it is comical, and most of it is not true. But there's a section in psychology that if humans are tortured, especially children, under 5, 6, 7 years old, to survive the torture, they will switch personalities. They will turn to another personality created within their own mind and become that person. The other little person, number one, is being tortured, but person number two is just fine. And that it's true. You know, like I said, I've been to school and I've seen dissociative disorders and people who have been tortured that way. Now, trying to deprogram those people is almost impossible. Now, being married to an MPD person, multiple personality, or a dissociated person, they change. Their personality just changes. Their voice tone, their inflection, their sex. Women can become men, men can become women. They can be very young at 6 or 7. They can be very old at 80 or 90. When you're dealing with dissociative people, there's no boundaries of what their minds will conjure up. So I put up with, when I would say to Sandra, well, you know, could you switch into Amanda? She'd go, okay. So she'd think for a few minutes and roll her eyes, and then suddenly Amanda would be there with a different voice and a different set of values, and I found it kind of curious, interesting, different. You know, those of you that are out there, you wouldn't. You go, hey, if you're married to a crazy woman and she can turn into 18 different people, that's not cool. Well, sexually it is. I'm sorry. I just have to be honest. Can you be Amanda tonight? Can you be Cynthia this morning? I mean, you know, there's some advantages. I try to look for the positive things. Well, I got looking in the DSM-4 revised and started reading about more dissociative personalities and whatever. And I started to see that she didn't meet all of the symptoms of that category. She met the symptoms of borderline personality disorder. Now that's a very serious disorder, and well, dissociative is very serious too. But borderline people are people that hardly can ever get a job, ever get married. And of course it didn't occur to me that she was 40 years old and she'd never been married. David was stupid, he didn't see that. David didn't see, you know, licking the vagina might be a lesbian. I didn't see that. You know, I need a truck to run over me to think poorly of people. So I confronted her and I said, you know, Sandra, I don't think you're MPD. I think you're faking it. And I think your theater background allows you to go into those other kinds of personalities, not mentally. You're doing that as an actress. And you are borderline. Well, the shit hit the fan in that house that night because I discovered, number one, she was lying to me, and number two, she was being deceptive, and number three, David hired 2 lesbians. Little girls came to me, oh, they were, what, 20, 21. And, you know, I was interviewing the girl, and I didn't think anything about anything. I just gave her a regular interview, and then I offered her the position. I said, you know, I think you could do this. Would you be interested in the position? And then she confessed, I guess. People do that to me all the time. I don't know why. And she says, well, you know, I'm gay, I'm a lesbian. And I said, well, that doesn't matter to me. If you come and do your job, I don't care if you're lesbian. Oh, okay, thank you. So after 3 or 4 weeks of working, then she said, I have a friend, my companion, she wants to work too. Well, I interviewed the companion. She seemed like a hard little worker, and she was. So I hired both of them. Well, I'm trying to be a good person. And then my wife, I am so embarrassed that I am this stupid, but I am, and I'm going to admit it. I'm telling the whole damn world, this is how stupid I was. She became very friendly with the lesbian employees. I thought she was just being nice because we owned the place. Well, then she started saying, well, David, would you mind watching Jenny this evening? I'd like to go down and visit the girls. I said, no, that's okay. They're your friends. That's fine. So I babysit while my wife went down to the next town and began licking the vaginas of 2 of the girls that I employed. Jesus, I'm so stupid. And I kept babysitting and kept babysitting these my baby girl Jenny all these nights and weekends and times that I just thought Sandra was down having a pizza. No, she was having a taco. Double tacos. Anyway. I came into the house one night, and, well, I lived there on grounds, and I came in from working outside, and my girl, Genevieve, was in a living room, and she had her doll, a little doll, baby girl doll, naked on the floor of the carpet. And Genevieve was up on top of this doll, humping her. David ain't that smart yet. And I said, Sandra, what the hell? Where'd she learn that? She's been with us 24/7 since she was born. She's never seen that before. She didn't see it in primary, I hope. And I said to my wife, we got to find out what the hell is going on there, because that baby has been exposed to the missionary position. She has seen somebody screwing somebody. She takes that to school. We're going to have social workers showing up on our doorstep going, where did she learn that? Well, I began to study lesbianism a little bit. Not that much, but a little bit. Well, I didn't know that they had strap-on dildos. And the 1 or 2 or 5 times that I didn't babysit Jenny, and Jenny went down to the lesbian convention with the 3 girls, one's her mother, one of them straps on the old, big old dildo, and the baby saw it. So the baby comes home, and now the baby's humping the doll. I decided I'm probably going to divorce this person. She's lied to me about her mental abilities. If she told me she was borderline, that would have been okay. As long as you tell me, then I'll put up with whatever comes along. I'd also put up with, I don't know if I'd be putting up with being married to a lesbian. I guess I would. I don't know. Her friends. Now, this is a sidelight. Okay, again, I don't know how this comes to me. When I was a Mormon, the Lord was testing me for intelligence, and I just failed constantly. I just failed. I was a C minus, a D student in intelligence. Well, oh God, I just lost my train of thought again. Oh. Shit. See, these are triggers. They're buried in my mind. I don't want to say these things, and I have enough psychology to know that I forget on purpose. I do forget on purpose. So these two little lesbian girls, and one was kind of a dyke, the other was cute as could be, and they lived together, and they had a child. One of them had a child, a boy that was about 6 or 7. And so they came to me, and I was the director of the facility. These are my employees. And the little cute one came to me, and she said, we'd like to ask you a favor. And I said, well, you know, I try to accommodate. What's your request? She said, we would like you to father a new baby for us. I said, wait a minute, hey, because the left side of my brain was not ready for this. I go, what the hell? Are you saying you want me to screw you? She goes, yes. I said, wait, whoa. I said, I've been married and divorced. I know what child support and alimony and parental lawsuits are all about. I don't need to be getting into this. Oh, no, we're going to sign a waiver. We just want your sperm. Okay, well, you know, I've never been asked for a sperm donation. Now, I did store some sperm in Massachusetts once. It may still be there. I quit paying the rent on the boys. I don't know if they throw the sperm out on the ground from the frozen tank when you don't pay the rent. I don't know. But this is the first time I've had a girl face-to-face across from me and one of my employees. And so there's not going to be any discriminatory suit here now, is there? There's not going to be any kind of wrongful termination suit coming in. I was that smart. I had a little bit of law background. And I said, well, you know, I'm going to have to talk to my wife and think about this a little bit. I don't know. You would have my baby and I would be giving it up. And she says, yes, that's what we want. And so when I went to my wife, she said, oh, that'll be fine. Well, I didn't know. You know, I was giving all 3 of them a new baby. Jeez. So I thought about it. I don't know why I thought about it. And I guess I just wanted to be a kind person. It was a dirty job, but somebody had to do it. Jeez. At least things blew up before I had to perform. So they never got my sperm. Well, I divorced Sandra, and I never got my baby. She took the humping baby with her. And this is hard. This is very hard for me because if I wasn't laughing, I'd be crying. I was kind again to Sandra, and she said to me in the divorce, I would never take your baby. And the first thing that happened in the divorce is she took the baby, and then they executed a restraining order for 5 years against me. I couldn't write, call, see, or visit my baby. Now, let me, you know, I guess I will disclose again. How did I get a restraining order? I've been married all these times. I've never been arrested. I've never been in jail. I've never been, you know, slapping a wife around or whatever, or children or whatever. So, when I started to be divorcing Sandra, women have a very similar response. They get very upset. And Sandra ran out of the house I think with the baby. I think she had Genevieve with her. And she jumped into the company nonprofit van. I had a brand new van that we were going to transport children into their therapy and to downtown travel and whatever. And Sandra had been fired by the state of California from the ranch program. She wasn't an employee. Now, I knew the van was able to be operated by anyone I assigned it to who was an employee. I was an employee. I could drive the van anytime I wanted. And so could anyone else that I'd hired. I'd hired 2 or 3 other people. They drove the van. Well, Sandra ran out mad, and rather than jumping in our car, she jumps in the van. And I go, holy shit, she's not covered under insurance in that van. And I am executive director of the nonprofit corporation, and I've just seen an unauthorized person, uninsured person, jump in our van and dash off the property. So I go, oh God. So I jump in my car, and I'm going down this dirt road. We lived off the main road a little bit, and I'm blinking my lights and honking my horn and saying, Sandra, you can't drive that van. Take the van back to the ranch. That's against the law. You can't do that. Well, she jumps out onto the highway, and I follow her some more, and pretty soon, I know Sandra. I know Sandra. And I know she's going to call the police and say that I am, abusive husband. That was her specialty in counseling, also with satanic ritual abuse. She knew the restraining order laws of every state for men, chasing women or threatening their lives or whatever. And so finally, sure enough, I was behind her. I wasn't bumping her or trying to pass her. I'm just flashing my lights, trying to get her attention, and she's crazy. I mean, she's been crazy since I met the girl. And so finally, the police show up and pull us both over and separate us, and I give them my business card, and it shows I'm executive director of Tender Heart Ranch, and the damn van is registered in the name of the nonprofit. There, he pulls up the registration. He says, you're right. Who's she? I said, well, she's my wife, but she's not authorized to drive that vehicle. I'm the executive director, and I have to protect the assets of the corporation. A lot of these things have been bought with public monies. She's not, and so he went to her, and she went into her, I'm going to take my boobs out and show you my pussy. And she wasn't that good looking, so it didn't work. And he told her that she's to drive the van immediately back to the ranch, and that I was not doing anything illegal. Well, Sandra presented that entire scenario other than the policeman sending her home to the divorce judge. She forgot about the policeman sending her home and threatening to arrest her if she didn't. She forgot to tell the judge in San Luis Obispo about that, and she got a restraining order against me for being an abusive husband. Silly me. So, anyway, I got out of that marriage, and Sandra was a member of the church. She accused her father of molesting her as a child. When I met Sandra, the father wouldn't even talk to her or me. He'd never gone to jail, he'd never been arrested, never brought up on charges. And I thought that was very strange that a parent, I mean, this girl now is 40 years old, he didn't want to talk to me or talk to her. She had no contact, and he hung up on her every time she called. I thought that was a little strange. Well, then she got a counselor, Cal. He lives out in Colton area, and Cal was a wonderful guy. He was a great guy, a great counselor. He was LDS. And he counseled her many years, almost for free. And at the last part of her counseling, she accused him of humping her on the floor and grabbing her boobs. And Cal lost his license. It never happened. It never happened. And she said her father molested her. That never happened. Never happened. So there's 2 people's lives that she ruined. Then when she was a teenager, about 16, she worked for a hamburger stand, and she accused her supervisor, owner there, of humping her. And I think these were more dreams of Sandra, because she's not that good looking. You know, if you have a chance, if you're going to go to jail, you might as well hump something that's worth humping. Well, he lost his business, never brought up on charges. None of it was true. Her 6th grade teacher, they went on a field trip together, a group of kids at the school, and she accused him of molesting her. He got fired. It wasn't true. None of it was true. Well, by the end of this marriage, I'm starting to see that she lies to me about her father and Cal and the 2 other people that she got fired because they all wanted to have sex with her. I knew she was lying about the satanic ritual abuse. I knew that she was licking every girl's vagina that would let her, and that didn't bother me that much, I guess. Maybe I didn't kiss her as much, I don't know. But be that as it may. And then I saw Jenny, my daughter, humping the doll. And I'm finally saying, geez, you know, where's the left side of my brain? Well, I started saying to Sandra, you know, I think I'm out of here. I can't take this. I don't think you are what you present you are. And then she immediately broke into, well, I have many friends, and they know that you've been molesting Jenny. I said, what? What the hell are you talking about? I've got, now 14, then I don't, 12 kids. I got 12 damn kids, half of them are females. There's never been even an allegation of me molesting anyone. Well, I can prove it. And I said, you know what? You're going to ruin my life like you did your father, like you did Cal, like you did your 6th grade teacher, and like you did your 16-year-old hamburger job. I'm not going to let it happen. So I got in my car. At that moment, I got right in my, it was a company car. I got in my company car and I drove out of there. And I immediately charged her with social services with molesting the child. Because I knew that's where she was going. I knew that's where she was going. And if the girl gets there first, the male, he's dog shit. You got an uphill battle. I'm not sure you're ever going to win. Well, social services came out and they talked to her, and now she accuses me of molestation. Well, now that looks retaliatory, and it was, and the social workers picked up on that. Well, the baby was supervised with Sandra for several months or years, I don't know, because the restraining order kept me away from the baby, so I don't know the details there. But the bishop there in Paso Robles, he was informed of her past and some of the things that were going on, and he didn't think she should be excommunicated either. Now, that's a hard story for me to go through. That's a hard story because I lost my child. I'm very emotional about that. Jenny now is about 8 years old, and I haven't seen her since that's gone on. And Sandra is such a dangerous and unpredictable psychiatric person that her father will not talk to her. Of course, her teacher and Cal and now me, you know, being around a person like that, you could be taking your life into your hands. And so the restraining order is gone now, but I'm wrestling with, do I really want to get involved with this human being again, which I don't, but I have to be involved with the mother if I'm going to visit the child. So there's the Mormon story of the mental patient there that I married, and I feel bad. I feel remorse and I feel regret that I was LDS. I would never have gotten into that situation today. Now that I've been out of the church 5-7 years, my brain is working. I would have looked at that girl and said, she's 40 years old, she's never had a child, no one is going to marry her, she's a psychiatrist counseling people for satanic ritual abuse. Let me look that up. She's not satanically MPD, she is borderline, and borderlines are famous for their antics, and she is a graduate in theater. She doesn't tell the truth, and she invites people, women, over to her house who she has had a sacred trust with as a counselor, and they lick each other's vaginas and hump each other with dildos and take showers together. This is a person that is being sued by the Condominium Association. She's being sued by the civil suit for the client that she damaged, and she's had her license revoked in the state of Colorado for counseling, can never counsel again, and she's being sued, possibly sued criminally for her behavior by the Attorney General of the state of Denver, or the state of Colorado. Those would be a few things now that I would think on this side, go, you know, this girl may not be all that I'm looking for. You know why I married her? Because I was because I was a Mormon. Because I thought she was telling the truth. Her bishop said she was okay. She must be okay. She's not excommunicated, and I guess her tongue just accidentally went down between her client's legs. She didn't really mean to do that. She was asleep. It was tongue licking, I guess is what it was. And the client that was in her bed was just sneaking over there. She wasn't really invited. Well, yeah, I'm glad I did this video because I do blame the Mormon Church for a lot of that. I'm not that stupid. I'm not. I do have a good left side of the brain. But when it came to marrying another Mormon and her telling me the truth and then, you know, I couldn't see the lesbianism, I couldn't see the lying, the deceit, the cheating. I never thought she was going to take my baby. She's done all of that, and I sit here now. I have a wonderful family and a wonderful wife, and I'm happy. But when I trigger the side of my brain that has these memories in it, it makes me sad. It makes me feel remorse. It makes me feel angry that I was so stupid that I was in the Mormon Church, and the Mormon Church influenced my ability to marry that girl, and I should have never married her in a million years. So there's my Sandra story, and there's the results of the collateral damage that the thinking of emotion in the Mormon Church can ruin your life, and eventually you live long enough, it will. That's my testimony. Thanks.